Hello. This is a brief video overview of the third assignment in 5946, which is assignment 3, constructing a complete education program evaluation plan. I have open here on the Canvas site the description of the assignment in the student view, and we'll walk through that. And then I have a sample paper that I will also walk through and sort of highlight a lot of the things about it that make it a pretty wonderful paper. So essentially, this is a significant assignment at the end of the course, and it allows you to really make use of the entire course in terms of the concepts we've covered, the exercises we've done, the discussion questions we've had, the chat questions, and really pull together an entire evaluation plan for the program that you've been focused on all semester long. Largely what you're doing is to describe the program, and you've done this now in the other two assignments. Be very clear about the goals and the outcomes for this program, the context, your audience, things like that. And then identify who the stakeholders are, sort of our external folks, internal folks who are important to the program, so we understand what roles they have because we're keeping them in mind. We identify then for our formative evaluation how we would, as we're designing the program and testing the program, how would we demonstrate Tier 2 and Tier 3 in terms of accountability and program clarification. This sounds really familiar from Assignment 1, of course, so you'll be building on that. And then identifying your outcome evaluation. And that will be a big chunk of the paper, and identifying then how, now you've got the program in place, how would you demonstrate the effectiveness of that program? And then finally, making good use of that resultant data. So it's a very comprehensive assignment. However, it does build very nicely on pieces that you've already built, and gives you a chance to reuse those pieces and refine those pieces and kind of put together an entire plan and think very globally. So as we look at the program description, a lot of this is background information about what the task is, and about the type of program that you would use, and our point total. So the point total for this particular assignment is 90 points. And then it walks through the overview of the various components of the paper. So in the first part is to describe the parent education program and to identify its goals and its outcomes. Now here the thing I would really pay very close attention to is not only the descriptive part, because we're all very, very clear with what we're teaching, who we're teaching, what the context is, how many classes, number of sessions, things like that. But what I want you to really focus on here, again, is the clarification of what your program goals are, and especially what the outcomes are. If you've been, not really writing participant outcomes in the past, you've been focused more on what your program intentions are, of your program will provide this. We will ensure that families are well supported, whatever. This is your time to really focus on what do you intend that the participants are going to do differently as a result of this program, or think differently, or behave differently, or have different attitudes about. So this is really the time to refine and to write those really clear program outcomes. In the second part is to identify your stakeholders and the utilization of the evaluation with their interest in mind. So each one of your stakeholder groups, I'm asking you to describe them, not just list them in a kind of a bullet point of these people, these people, these people, but say staff are your stakeholders. Well, why are they stakeholders related to the program design, delivery, and evaluation? Why is it important that they use data from this? If parents are stakeholders, why are they stakeholders in, again, the design, delivery, and use of the evaluation? And then returning back to our formative evaluation in terms of once you've piloted or you've designed the program, how are you going to show accountability and program quality to the satisfaction that you are getting your program ready to be evaluated, right? And so this comes back to our tier 2, our tier 3 assessment, and in terms of identifying what are those elements of the program that we want to take a closer look at, make sure that we're doing the program as we had it down on paper, and if our theory of change, what is it that our program looks like to try to achieve that the change, the outcomes. And so this is largely building on and repeating a summarization of what you had for the first assignment. And again, if this is also your opportunity based on my comments from that first assignment to incorporate those. So, if there was an element of it that maybe wasn't clear, this is your opportunity to make it clear in the paper because I'm going to be re-reviewing it. And then the big chunk of it, of the assignment, is on the summative evaluation. So you have your program outcomes, you're delivering this program that you have done your formative evaluation for. Now talk to me about how you're going to be measuring those outcomes. We've spent the last number of weeks looking at outcome instruments, looking at different methods, different methodologies, whether it's quantitative, whether it's qualitative, whether it's interviews, observations, if it's scaled measures. What do you do with numeric data? What do you do with open-ended data? Do you do a thematic analysis? Basically, this is your opportunity to put that in place and plug those in specifically for the outcomes for your program. If you want to refine anything, if you remember in assignment 2, you were just picking a tool and critiquing that tool. I in no way expect that you are going to deploy that tool here. Now, if you did the analysis and determined that that was a really good tool for your program, then maybe you'll want to use it here. And so that's completely up to you. But this is not intended for you to use the tool from assignment 2 necessarily. It is for you to identify the mechanism for measuring the outcomes for your program. And so this is the opportunity to show me, how are you going to do that? Why have you chosen this measure? Why is it a good measure? Talk to me about its validity. And give me a good description of that measure. If you have a sample and you want to throw it in as an appendix, whatever. But this is where you'll be very, very clear on, this is how I'm going to be measuring the outcomes and why. And then finally, and part of that, and that how I'm measuring it is not just with the instrument, but also that administration, right? When would you be doing this? Is this pre and post? Is it during the last session? Is it ongoing observation? Who's doing that? Again, a lot of the things we've been talking about in our recent weeks about outcome measurement. And then finally, what are you going to do with the results? Our preference, of course, in utilization-focused evaluation is that we use the results for some useful purpose, right? It could be just marketing our program. It could be demonstrating our program effectiveness to stakeholders. I'm particularly interested in how our data is used for program sustainability. We want to keep this program going. And so are we finding evidence of ways that we can improve the program? Are we finding evidence that we can use for advocacy for the program? Are we identifying new growth for the program that we have? We've achieved our goals, but maybe one of the goals or one of our outcomes that we've been measuring, maybe it was parents didn't feel as supported as we hoped that they would. And so while we've got a good thing going, we want to refine that. And so I want to hear from you in the final section then, how are you going to be using these results for sustainability? So that's an overview of the whole paper, and then I just have some additional considerations. I'm looking for papers, of course, that are well written, that are easy to understand, that flow. I do expect that citations of course readings are going to be used throughout the paper. A big value of having these readings as part of your professional library is that you can continue to use those in your own technical writing as evidence for the important points that you make. As professionals, we don't just offer our opinion, right? We offer an informed opinion, and that informed opinion means that we can back up what we say from a theory, from other research, and I've sort of gifted you with a whole lot of readings in this course from from scholars who you can cite to support your choices across the paper. If you find ways of conveying the information through the paper in an efficient way, say using tables or something like that, please go ahead and use them. There is no one way to do this. That's really up to you. What I care about is that the components are there, that it's easy to read, that it's professionally written. And page length is optional. Most pages or most papers of this for this project generally come in about the 10 to 14 page length by the time things are copied and pasted and summarized from other sections and rewritten, and especially a focus on that final outcome evaluation section. Okay. And then finally, and I don't think this will apply to too many of you, but be very, very cautious that if you are not citing or not speaking to anything that is original, if you are speaking to something that someone else has offered, whether it's the specific instruments that you might be identifying, or if it's you are adapting somebody else's text, say for administration of something. I'm using this tool, and the manual tells me this. Please be very, very careful to cite other people's writing. It just helps me know what you are adapting from what other people have done, and what is your original work. The other thing is professional courtesy, and our expectation that anytime we're using somebody else's work through intellectual property, we are giving them citations. And then finally, you can see the rubric. There are 6 elements under the rubric, and they follow, and this rubric follows very nicely with the sections that I went through on the description of the program, being again clear, showing cohesion, detail, the stakeholders and the utilization in terms of being very descriptive of the stakeholders. The formative evaluation being comprehensive, writing through all 3 of the first tiers. And then the summative evaluation is weighted pretty heavily with 20 points, that it is a comprehensive plan, and that it is also detailed in the sense of not just saying how the outcomes will be measured, but again, that administration detail as well, and your rationale for choosing things. The use for sustainability, that the audience for using the results is very clear, how you would share the results and the why. And then finally, the technical pieces, right? That it's well written, it's professionally done in terms of a good technical report. I would prefer that you don't use personal pronouns. I'm not big on that for technical writing. I know other people vary on that, but my own preference is that we, as professionals, when we write, we don't use I. I think, or I am choosing, or I have stated, but that we use more I guess it's the third person. This table is presented, the work of so-and-so. This instrument has been selected. Okay. So again, you can get an idea. Everything that you need is right here. And so then the last thing I'll do then is just walk you through a sample paper that from a few years ago that was exceptionally well done. Of course, this is with permission of the author. And I again caution you from a sample paper, this is just one way to do it. But there are parts of this that are very well done that I'd like to bring out. Primarily here in the program description, again, it's very nicely detailed. As a reader, as a cold reader to the evaluation plan, it gives me the information I need to understand the lay of the land. What is the object that is going to be evaluated? If there's minimal information, it's very hard for me to understand how well particular measures, particular processes fit. Topics. And then is an indication of the short-term outcomes. And what I especially like about this is that the outcomes are listed, and here the author has bolded them, so there's no mistaking what the outcomes are. The author has used subheadings, so right there I don't have to hunt for them, right? I can see them right there. And then they're offered, and then there is a brief description under each one. That describes or that clarifies that particular outcome relative to the program. Okay. The nice thing with the three of them, again, it sets up for me in my own cold read evaluator's mind, then this, when I get to that part of the project that is going to be evaluating, these are the outcomes that are going to be evaluated. So I'm already starting to think what types of measures might be used, what kind of methods might be used. The author then states the overall goal for the program. You can switch that around, have the goal first, have the outcomes later, however you want to do it, but it's nice because both are there. Then stakeholders and utilization, and as I sort of scroll through this, you'll also see proper citation, APA citation for quotes, for paraphrasing, things like that. The author doesn't immediately launch into a list. There's always a buildup. There's always an introduction in the section, which I, as a reader, love because it tells me I'm doing more as a writer than just answering questions or just fulfilling this assignment. I am describing this section of the project, and then I'll offer you more detail about it. So in this case, excuse me, the general introduction to the stakeholders, the value of using stakeholders or of considering stakeholders. And in introductory passages like this, it is a great opportunity as well to show me now as your instructor that you understand the background behind our work, right? That it's not just you saying that, here's my list of stakeholders, but it's also you're saying to me, I understand why stakeholders are important for us to identify, and I'm going to share that with you. I'm going to write about stakeholders. I'm going to provide some citations to readings, and I'm going to give you that background. And then I will give you a list of who those people are. So, so in this case, we can see that there's a little paragraph for each one, attending parents, the community advisory committee, stakeholders, those members of the community for the program who don't apply. So again, the idea is for each one, it's not just bullet points and listing, it's also providing a brief description for each one of those folks, why they're an important stakeholder to the process. And then with the formative evaluation, it's offering me some understanding about the value of formative evaluation. Again, I really encourage you to write as though you were writing for someone cold and not knowledgeable. I think we have a tendency when we're writing for somebody who is knowledgeable that they can make assumptions, right? That they already know this stuff, so I don't need to retell them. In this case, I want you to retell me because this is an assessment of your knowledge. So it's important for you not to assume I know, but to show me what you know, okay? So here in formative evaluation, again, there's the background for the value, and then a summary summarizing what the formative evaluation plan would look like, what the choices are. And again, that's not very long, right? It's a couple pages, and it's a very nice summary that shows me this person knows what they would be looking for when they are pulling together their program. And then the summative evaluation. And what I really like about this is that what the writer has done is to, one, again, give me a heading. I know that now I'm at that part of the paper. And then to take the outcome, to very clearly, so no questions asked, one, show me the method of measurement. Two, justify the use for that measurement. Three, show me the administration. Okay, and so the nice thing with that, it's relatively efficient, but it tells me what I need to know. I can almost visualize a table in my head of outcome, measure, and administration. Same thing with the second one, same thing with the third one, okay? And within that too is information about how it's administered, what will happen with the data afterwards, things like that. And then the final section is the use of the results for sustainability. And there it's about a page and a half, not terribly long. But again, bringing in who the results will be shared with and how they'll be shared, the purpose of using those results, and so forth. So you can see that none of these sections are tremendously long. The whole paper together, by the time you add in those sections, could be 10 to 14 pages or so. But the sections in and of themselves are not tremendously long. If you want to add in more detail, like I said, you can put in tables. You can always throw an appendix if you want to share the measure with me, and I can take a look at that. There are a lot of different ways that you can do it. And then finally, you can see the reference list at the end. And, a lot of what I loved about this paper was it was a masterwork in efficiency. The student had a very clear plan. They knew what they were writing. They presented it with clarity, with confidence. They presented it with efficiency. They didn't give me extra pages of things that weren't relevant to the assignment. And when I was done reading, I had a very clear sense of how they were going to look at this program from a design sense and a development sense and testing in the development phase. Who was really involved in all of this from a stakeholder perspective, how they were doing the measurement at the end, and then what they were going to do with those results. It was a really nice, efficient, comprehensive plan. But again, tightly written. So I will have this model available to you so you can review it as well. So that pretty much takes care of it. I think I've connected on a number of the things that I'm looking for with the assignment. And I want you to have heart that really what you'll be doing here is really kind of putting the cherry on top of the ice cream sundae from the course, because you have been working on your program and thinking about the goals and the outcomes of your program, thinking about how you design and test the program and its development, what the outcomes are and how you measure them throughout the entire course. So this is just really your opportunity to write all of that down. And you'll have a few weeks left to do that. Along the way, of course, if you want me to look at any sections of it, review anything, have any questions about it, we'll have time in our chats in the coming weeks. We can revisit then. But at least from this point on, this gives you a bit of an overview of the assignment, kind of the things I'm looking for, and then these two major pieces where you can get information: the description of the assignment, of course, on Canvas, and then this sample assignment that I've provided. And so with that, I will sign off and wish you well. And again, let me know if you have any questions at all.